January 3rd, 1889, Turin, Italy. A cold morning. The kind where your breath hangs in the air like a question you forgot to ask. A man steps out of his apartment onto the Piazza Carlo Alberto. He's 44 years old. His mustache is enormous. His eyes, when they still worked, were described as the most intense anyone had ever seen. Across the square, a coachman is whipping a horse. The man stops. Something breaks open inside him. He runs across the cobblestones, throws his arms around the horse's neck, and begins to weep. The kind of weeping that comes from somewhere deeper than sadness. He collapses. His landlord carries him inside. He lies on the floor, singing softly to himself. He would never be the same again. The man's name was Friedrich Nietzsche, and the tragedy of his story is not that he went mad. The tragedy is what he wrote before he did, and how long it took the world to actually read it. Friedrich Nietzsche was born in 1844 in Röchen, a small village in Prussia. So quiet that the loudest sound was the church bell his father rang every Sunday. His father was a Lutheran pastor, gentle, devout, beloved. Friedrich worshipped him. Then one morning in 1849, when Friedrich was 4 years old, his father collapsed at the breakfast table. A brain disease. The doctors could do nothing. For months, the boy watched the man he loved the most in the world slowly disappear. Still breathing, still present, but no longer there. His father died the following year. Friedrich was 5. He grew up in a house of women. His mother, his sister, 2 aunts. He grew up performing the role of the good boy, the promising student, the future pastor. But somewhere inside him, a question had taken root that would never leave. If God is real, why did He take my father? He never stopped asking it. He just stopped believing in the answers. By the time Nietzsche was 30, his body had become his enemy. The migraines came without warning, 2, sometimes 3 times a week. Not ordinary headaches, the kind that put you on the floor, that make light feel like a knife, that make sound feel like broken glass inside your skull. He wrote in his journals about lying in dark rooms for days, about having to stop mid-sentence because the pain made thinking impossible, about vomiting so severely he couldn't keep food down for weeks. His eyesight was failing. He read with a magnifying glass, line by line, holding the page inches from his face. When the pain was very bad, he couldn't read at all. Those days, he just lay there and thought. He tried everything. Different cities, different climates, different diets, different doctors. None of it worked. He resignated from his professorship at 34, not because he wanted to, because he had no choice. And then, with no institution, no salary, no audience, and a body that betrayed him daily, he started writing, the most important work of his life, moving between cheap boarding houses in Switzerland, Italy, and France, carrying everything he owned in 2 trunks, eating simple meals alone, writing by hand in whatever light he could tolerate, for however long his eyes held out, He wrote because the pain gave him no other option. Because when you cannot distract yourself, when your body forces you into stillness, the questions come. And Nietzsche had never been able to leave a question unanswered. In 1882, something happened that Nietzsche had never expected. He fell in love. Her name was Lou von Salome. She was 21 years old, Russian, brilliant, fearless, the kind of person who walked into a room and immediately became its center, not by trying, but simply by being. Nietzsche met her in Rome. Within weeks, he was certain this was the person who finally understood him, not just the ideas, him. He proposed, she said no. He proposed again, she said no again. She suggested instead that the three of them, Nietzsche, Lou, and his closest friend, Paul Ree, live together as an intellectual community, a philosophical family. Nietzsche agreed. He was so desperate for connection that he would take whatever form it came in. Then Lou and Paul fell in love with each other and left. Nietzsche's letters from that period are almost unbearable to read. He wrote to his sister, "I have suffered from Lou as I have suffered from no one else." He wrote to his friend, "If I cannot find the alchemical trick to turn this filth into gold, I'm almost lost." He didn't sleep. He couldn't eat. He wandered alone through the mountains, talking to himself, crying without knowing why. And then, in the winter of 1882, alone in a boarding house in Rafalo, in pain, heartbroken, and half blind, he began writing Thus Spoke Zarathustra, the book that would eventually be read by millions, written by a man who had never been more alone in his life. "God is dead," he wrote, and people have been misreading it ever since. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't attacking believers. He was describing what he saw all around him. A world that had lost its foundational story, but hadn't yet found a new one. People who no longer truly believed, but who kept going through the motions, who filled the God-shaped hole with nationalism, with consumerism, with comfort and distraction, who had, without realizing it, chosen meaninglessness and called it modern life. His question was the hardest one. Now what? If the old answers are gone, if no one is keeping score, if there is no cosmic justice, if suffering has no guaranteed meaning, how do you live? His answer was not despair. His answer was creation. Create your own values. Don't inherit them. Examine them. Don't follow the crowd. Question it. Don't wait for meaning to be given to you. Make it. He called this the will to power, which has nothing to do with dominating others. It means the will to become more fully yourself, to push against your own limits, not to destroy others, but to create something that would not exist without you. And Amor Fati, love of faith, not the easy parts, all of it. The migraines, the loneliness, Lou's rejection, the books no one read. My formula for greatness, he wrote, is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. The man who wrote those words was lying alone in a dark room with a headache that had lasted 4 days. By 1888, something was accelerating inside Nietzsche's mind. He wrote 5 books in 1 year. He sent letters to the Kaiser, to the Pope, to the King of Italy. He signed one letter, "The Crucified." His friends read the letters and felt cold. Then came Turin, the horse, the weeping, the collapse. His friend Overbeck traveled to find him. He found Nietzsche in his room, dancing, singing in fragments that meant nothing. He never wrote again. He never gave another lecture. He spent years under the care of his mother and then his sister, who would go on to edit his unpublished notebooks, remove what she didn't like, and hand the results to the Nazi Party. Nietzsche spent his last years unable to form sentences, unable to recognize faces, occasionally, rarely, singing softly to himself. He died in 1900. The books that had sold almost nothing during his lifetime would eventually be read in every language, in every country, by people who had never heard of the cheap boarding houses where they were written. There's a photograph of Nietzsche, taken near the end of his life. He is sitting in a chair. His enormous mustache is the same, but his eyes, those eyes that had once been described as the most intense anyone had seen, are empty. The man who asked, "How do you say yes to life when you know exactly what it costs?" could no longer answer the question. The man who wrote about loving your fate completely could no longer remember his own name. I don't know what to do with that. Maybe that's the point. Nietzsche never promised that asking the hard questions would protect you from the hard answers. He only said that the questions were worth asking, that a life examined, even a painful one, even a lonely one, even one that ends in silence, is still more honest than a life that never looked up from its own comfort. He asked you something in those boarding houses, in that pain, in that darkness. Are you living, or are you just not dying yet? That question is still here. He isn't.